Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining ANN7 Prime with me, Cindy Mabi. You can tweet at I am Cindy Mabi or at ANN7 TV. Our top story this half hour, Seipei's mother, Joyce, says that she made peace with Winnie Mandela, who was accused of her son's murder. However, the ghost of Seipei still haunts Mandela's legacy. Mandela was cleared of Seipei's murder. Joyce Seipei has also set the record straight that Mandela did not kill her son. Former Police Commissioner George Fivers also recently came forward to say the allegations against the struggle icon were baseless. Stompie's mother has since met with ANC Secretary General Esma Khashule and indicated that she wants to pay her last respects to Mandela. Another big question is, what will it take for critics to put the matter to rest?
Winnie Mandela go toilet, o sna motho a tsebang. Ngwana wa ka o na rata go bapala ka metsi, a rata gore o ya toilet. Ha re fitla toilet, ngwana o bapala ka metsi o tlhapa matsogo. Nna ke ka toilet. Ha ntse ke ka toilet, ke utlwa ke re wa motsebo. A re dumela me Winnie. A re dumela nana. A re me wa go kae? A re tlo bone me wa ka. Zinzi a mo tshwara ka letsogo. Winnie a tshwara ngwana ka letsogo. Ba tla wonna. Taba pele e buile monna. O itse ha ona motho ka o tshitang ka ngwana hao me Stompi. O tshwana le Stompi. Ene tate modimo a ntshwarele. Ya ba ke tshwaretse me Winnie o fitlela ona jwale. Ya ba ntwe ya lokoloa gonna. Mara nna ke tshwaretse motho o mo le o mong. O le bitso la hae ne le hlahella mo.
Mama Seipei has been and is still a member of the ANC Women's League, ANC. For all those years, she has been part of the ANC. And when we found out that she, on the media, that she wants to go to the funeral, because she has met Mama Winnie several times. So we felt, let the media come and talk to Mema Nanki direct.
You're welcome to give us a call on 011-542-1046, 011-542-1046. In studio, Zamo Madlala, Radical Economic Transformation Coalition. You're Secretary General. Always struggle with your designation.
Yeah.
Good to have you. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you, Cindy?
I'm good. I mean, since last Monday, with the announcement of Mama Winnie Mandela's passing, it was hardly 24 hours later where we saw the Western media now referring to her as the mugger of the nation and not the mother of the nation. Is this to be expected, considering that she was the most hated person under the apartheid regime?
Well, it is to be expected, Cindy, because the reality is that when you look at mainstream media and who gets loved and becomes the darling, if we are really honest, Mama Winnie maintained her hard line up until the end. She had always felt that the ANC had not really done the proper service to the people, the land had not been returned. So she had remained an extreme hardliner. And if you think back to the 90s, when there's all of these mudslinging and all of the cases were thrown against her, it was around the time when she was also very politically active herself. So there could have been machinations even from within the party itself where there were power struggles for certain positions.
I mean, we even heard it from the ANC Women's League that they had missed a golden opportunity to appoint Umama as deputy president, who would then have subsequently became the president, because they buckled under the pressure, of patriarchy within the party. But we want to come back to what has seemed to be an albatross around her legacy. When it comes to Seipei, you remember the TRC process in itself, where by her own admission, saying things had gone horribly wrong, but fact is that she wasn't found guilty of his murder, and yet there are all these relentless attacks on her character.
Well, I suppose when you are that much of an icon, once the mud has been thrown, whether it's stuck or not, one can expect that somewhere along the line someone will always be bringing it up, and it will always be brought about in the narrative that she actually did it. Although there have been many a narrative that have come out there where other people have come out and admitted, there's somebody who's come out and admitted to having killed Seipei because he had been found out, Stompie had found out that he was an informer or something. So there are many stories, but obviously the one that will always stick the hardest is the one that sticks to the biggest name possible, which is Winnie Mandela. So unfortunately, her great legacy sometimes gets tainted with with all of the nonsense. And it's up to each and every individual to actually celebrate her for what she is, and it's up to the leadership of today to measure up themselves against such leaders as Winnie Mandela.
Yeah, so you're saying it's an incumbent on the party to restore and preserve her legacy and dignity?
Well, I would think so, because in my opinion, when I look back to that whole period of the late 90s and the TRC process, I don't particularly believe that the ANC went too far out of its way to defend her. And one doesn't know if it was perhaps that at the time there were her own personal issues with the former President Mandela, because it would have been around the time of the divorce as well. So one can't really be certain on why the organization never came out more strongly in standing to support her. And as you were saying earlier, yes, the Women's League, I believe with her, they definitely lost an opportunity to have a female presidential candidate.
All right, we have a caller on 011-542-1046. Good evening to you, Joe, and thanks for calling. How are you?
Thanks, and yourself, Cindy.
I'm very well, thank you.
For your panel there also.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm really, really pleased now that I watched this thing. I think it's Thomas Erasmus, if I'm not wrong. Mr. Erasmus said it on the TV that actually Winnie never actually got involved with Seipei. Stop Seipei. Actually, it was the apartheid police infiltrated the Mandela Club, and they made some of the guys there as informers tracking down Winnie. As a result, Stompy revealed that the other guy, I forgot his name, was an impimpi. So therefore, that guy retaliated. So Stompy was punished for that and eventually died. So I'm glad that this thing was said by one of Mr. Erasmus in front of everybody. But you know, the mainstream media will always persecute Winnie Mandela and deviate from the truth. Winnie has done absolutely nothing. So I'm surprised also that Mbeki, in fact, also blamed Winnie, said Winnie was reckless. And Mbeki was never here. We, the product of 76 Cindy, we know exactly what was happening. So this is really unfair. Hello?
All right. No, thank you so much, Joe, for that perspective. Your view that, you know, the exilees have no place. They're speaking out of turn, really, in criticizing the likes of Mama Winnie Mandela, who stayed with the people, faced the barrel of the gun, and her own personal sacrifice.
Well, when it comes to that, I believe there's certain things that we have as customs, I believe, as Africans, and I believe one of the things that we always have is to be respectful, especially in a time of death. So I personally found that those particular comments were rather unfortunate and unnecessary, especially after such a long time, especially from the former president. I would expect him, especially with his stature and his position, to have handled the whole matter but more gracefully than the words he actually uttered.
He must wax lyrically on paper and do his poetry there, then respond to questions on the spot. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I certainly don't believe the former president has got any issues with the English language. He's very proficient.
I'm saying the tact, though.
Yes,
you know, reading the mood of the nation and what is that's going on.
I think these comments are just unfortunate.
Okay, let's deal with Joe. He says Paul Erasmus was on national TV on one of the other competitors, saying that as an apartheid-era operative, he knows, and they had infiltrated the Mandela Football Club, and everybody was spying on Winnie because of her stature, the gravitas, the fear that she even instilled in the apartheid regime. So what would it take if we even have a living witness that says, as a matter of fact, Winnie did not kill Stompy? This was what the machination and the whole scheme was all about.
Well, I think that narrative, I think, has been out for some time. It's just that no one has gone ever aggressively to go and push it and run a media campaign around the whole Stompy Seipei saga. But I mean, it was out there that obviously there had been things that had gone wrong, especially around the time of the whole violence and etc. And some of the things that may have gone wrong would not necessarily have needed her to have provided a specific instruction. So I believe that when she said that things may have gone wrong, it was in that general context. It wasn't in saying, in this specific saga, this is what occurred. And then there was also that bit of a code of, there was very little kissing and telling back in the day of what had really had gone on. I mean, till today, we all still also don't know what the real truth of what happened in the camps in exile really was. So at the end of the day, some of the things were kept secret because it was at some level a dirty war. And a dirty war that was also infiltrated by spies, as you say.
And I mean, there are casualties of war that are unintended consequences. If you remember, I think in the 80s, when the necklacing came about, you know, with the burning tire around a suspected informant, that in itself being grossly inhumane, but it necessitated, in terms of the revolution, it wasn't something that was going to be comfortable, that is going to be pleasant, that we're not taking that into context. It's almost like we want to label people. The ANC was known as the terrorists, and the unbanning of other political parties under the Treason Act. We haven't made peace with that aspect of our history in how we came to democracy.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the whole conversation, there's a whole conversation that we've never had. I mean, if you look at the domination, it's probably something that has gone over 400 years. So it can't be that you run one process that I think was less than 2 years, and then you assume that everything is then hunky-dory and sorted. So there's a lot of issues. I mean, we still sit with a majority poor black population. I mean, statistics are there. You've got almost 31 million people under the breadline, and the majority of those are black. So the reality for them, even in some of the discussions we are having now, are irrelevant to them because they've still got the basic stomach issues.
Okay, yeah, issues of inequality, everything that Mama Winnie had fought for is still very much prevalent in society. Nompumelelo in Kempton Park, good evening to you and thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good evening. I'm Nompumelelo Mandela. In 1993, I was suspended from the ANC together with Winnie Mandela and 3 others, which were Marjorie Nkomo, Gwen Mashangu, and Sally Peterson. I want to start by saying I salute Mama Winnie for all her contribution to this nation. And I want to agree with people that maintain that the ANC owes her an apology. What we witnessed at the time, there was an agenda coming from exile to actually destroy Winnie altogether. And I want to also thank God for making me part of the people who defended her in this situation. We were just sent by God at the moment, saving his servant. And I want to say I feel very proud that we got her back to where she belongs, got her dignity back, and today she is recognized by the ANC in the rightful manner.
Mam Nompumelelo Mandela sibonge kakhulu calling us from Kempton Park, sharing her personal experience with Mama Winnie Mandela. We cross now to the Mandela home in Orlando West, where ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule is with Stompie Seipei's mother, Joyce. So we cross live to that event.
The media for keeping the spirit of Mama Winnie and the name of Mama Winnie out there high in the history books. I think we have been watching, and all South Africans are watching. And this is the only leader where I can see that she was indeed in touch with our people in villages, in farms, in squatter camps, all over South Africa. Really a real mother of the nation, and very humbled. And we are humbled by the Seipei's family because this is where Stompie was also getting his training in terms of how to handle an AK-47, and yeah, we are happy. The women are here, and we appreciate they are coming. And you'll see them also at the funeral.
Even on Thursday at the memorial service at Regina Mundi, it will be the memorial service of the National Executive Committee. All provinces will be here. Free State will be here in numbers to come and make sure that we pass our own condolences and celebrate the well-lived life, the well-lived political life of Comrade Mama Winfred Madikizela Mandela.
No, really, thank you very much.
And more details will emerge on the funeral and memorial service of Mama Winnie Mandela Mandela. A number of events in her honor being held as part of the 10-day mourning program for the African National Congress. And the tributes keep pouring in from around the world. We're in studio here with Zamo Madlala, the Secretary General of the Radical Economic Transformation Coalition. And we take your calls on 011-542-1046. And you're most welcome to share your contribution. Earlier we had Mpumelelo Madlala also sharing her story that she can vouch. She is grateful that Umam Winnie was steadfast and remained strong in the light of the barrage of attacks that she had, the banishment, etc. That it is indeed by the grace of God. I mean, how many leaders can you think of at the top of your head that would have withstood what Umama Mandela had to endure?
Well, she was certainly made of a certain kind of cloth. I mean, she was strength personalized. I mean, she maintained the struggle and maintained the Mandela name out there in the public whilst her husband was in jail all those years. So her strength and character is really, it's beyond reproach. And I do feel that with the advent of democracy, there must have been a lot of that internal infighting, especially jockeying for positions. Because if you look at the number of leaders that were there and the number of leaders that were capable of taking the mantle forward, there were quite a lot. And I think some of the things that occurred may have been those internal political rumblings and internal political fights for jockeying for position. Because, I mean, for instance, had she become deputy president and ultimately president, would we be sitting in the South Africa that we sit in today? Hey, who knows? So those are all the things that we can never know. All that there is for us now is to really appreciate her life and appreciate that we were blessed to have someone like her in our lives, and to take all the good examples that she set for us and to take the country forward. And because the fight is certainly not over.
Mm. And I mean, the personal attacks on her, as we heard from the apartheid operative Paul Erasmus, who is now, I think, in his 60s, who confessed and went to national television to talk about the Stratcom initiative that had recruited a young man in the Mandela Football Club to spy on Mama Winnie, and has also come forward that this was done in order to discredit the most radical of leaders prior to CODESA, the Convention for Democratic South Africa, where we essentially negotiated everything away in the disadvantage of black people. And Mama Winnie had been very critical of that it is to be expected that indeed her legacy will always be marred negatively by those who don't want to see transformation.
Well, certainly. I mean, I think it continues till today. I mean, you have seen with radical economic transformation being called another word for thieving and all sorts of machinations that you find there today in the democratic South Africa. I mean, you find there being said that if the land is given to black people, it's going to hamper food security. That already is planting a seed in the mind that once the land is in black hands, it's definitely not going to be used in a manner that is appropriate without actually looking at what are the root problems of what brings that about. And some of the things are simple things like it doesn't help you give someone a farm and then you don't give them the support that they need after you've given them that farm, which is what happened to white farmers when they were initially given the land. So these realities are not just in our past. And I think from time to time we do need the rude awakening and reminder of it still happens to be our present, to find such fights like what Mama Winnie went through. Perhaps it's not as harsh and direct, and it's more subtle in the messaging that comes out there, but it is there. You do find there being voices that are being deemed not appropriate to be aired in the public space in the democratic South Africa, like with this particular station. And that's the reality right now in 2018.
Yeah. Is it also an imminent reality that the poor revolt will not be satisfied with the status quo as we've enjoyed in the past 24 years, that honeymoon period is over, that real material change now needs to take effect? Otherwise, it's all or nothing.
Well, that's what, in general, one has been warning, that the patience of the majority cannot last a lifetime. Somewhere the material conditions need to change, and it can no longer be just a investor-friendly economy when the actual growth does not come back to benefit the people that live within the land. So somewhere along the line, something will give. When, I don't know. I wish I had the crystal ball to tell you exactly when that moment will come.
Yeah. Do you think these issues are intentionally so that we are distracted or we deviated from dealing with issues of inequality when the land return will be implemented and to expedite the process? Instead, we're sitting here with a mother, Seipei, and as a mother, if you're sitting across the room from somebody whom has been accused of murdering your child, there would be that instinct, one would think. And if she can find it in her heart to say, I never thought Winnie murdered my child. As a matter of fact, I want to go pay my respects. I'm still an active member of the ANC. I value the party's ideologies and principles. Should it rest so that we really deal with the issues that would give the dignity to Mama's legacy, that of changing the circumstances of the poor, ensuring that there's equality?
Well, I would suppose those that push that particular propaganda narrative know what they stand to gain, and they will always continue to push that narrative, and that is why I think we find that propaganda exists. There will always be those that want her memory to always have those blots against the canvas. And that is what they would always want to focus on. Now, the question is, it is the ANC must primarily carry the responsibility because it's their struggle icon. They must get the story out there and ensure that the history books record it accurately, who she was and who she was to the country and to the liberation struggle.
Do you think we understand the severity of how her life had been impacted, let alone her children who have been displaced, living a nomadic life and being isolated, demonized, and called all sorts of names, that even in death she struggles to find that peace and dignity, at least from some quarters, that she deserves? Well,
like I said, it is unfortunate, and then for us who are Africans, and we just said it goes against everything that we believe in, that regardless of who it is, but when it comes to a time of passing and a time of death, it is treated with respect. And so regardless of how somebody may feel towards her, at this time, if you have nothing positive to say, rather maintain your silence and say nothing. But there are those of us who truly appreciate her existence, appreciated the fact that she was born and that we were blessed with having her as a leader, and we will always carry her memory forward. And the fact that she may be gone, she will not be forgotten, and we trust that our leaders who carry the leadership positions right now and carry the mantle forward will look back at leaders such as Mama Winnie for inspiration in leading us out of our quagmire.
There's a lot that we could have learned, that would have changed our perspective on how things were done. But we know even some apartheid ministers or then president refused to appear before the TRC. That has robbed us of getting the other side of this concentrated campaign to discredit leaders such as Umama Winnie Mandela, Chris Hani, Yubantu Bikos, and ensuring that their voice somehow is muzzled, and even in death that there's always this question around the authenticity of their leadership?
Well, I always say I put it on us. It is our choice. It is what we allowed to occur. We did not choose the Nuremberg-style trials. Hence, you find your former apartheid leaders, like former President de Klerk, being celebrated. He's been given a Nobel Peace Prize, apparently for averting a war, whatever that is. And the narrative will always be out there if we don't push our own stories out there and tell our own stories. If we are always going to be waiting for somebody to be telling us our story, then what do we expect? At some point, we must just start taking the responsibility that we must put our own narrative out there and tell our own stories to our own children, and not always have somebody giving us a representation of who we are as a people and what our history is.
But I think that will unveil as time goes on in what we've seen with the Ahmed Timol case, which was 41 years later, where the family had, in their own capacity based and resources, to want and seek the truth of his supposed or purported suicide. It now is clear that he had been murdered, that the timing of it all, unfortunately, always is quite a process. It's not something that we are privy to at the time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as time is elapsing, the more and more time is going, more and more people are dying, you will find less and less of the truth coming out. But what you are going to find is, because the mood of the country is changing so much, and you do see conflict and rumblings. I mean, recently, I think we've found the first case where there was an actual jail sentence for a racist incident. So the mood is changing, that at some point the majority does need to be acknowledged for who they are. And such things like, speaking of expropriation of land, at the end of the day, I would agree with the Minister, Winnie Mandela, in saying that it's not actually expropriation, it's restoration. The initial act was the expropriation, and all you're attempting to do is to restore what was previously put wrong. The question is how to go about it in a manner that you don't obviously damage your whole market.
Yeah, that's something we'll ponder. I think the deadline was in August to come up with some workable mechanisms around the land issue. But Zamo, as always, lovely having you. That's Zamo Mandela from the Radical Economic Transformation Coalition. Thanks indeed for watching. We'll continue on social media. And for now, we take a quick break. We'll be back with the latest news headlines.